Straight into it, mate.
I love
Live
it.
stream Facebook. My camera, I don't know what's going on here. Sign in.
Yeah, that was a bit strange, wasn't it?
It just stopped. I obviously need to reset my machine. This machine requires resets frequently. I mean, I am putting it through its paces, I guess, a bit, but still. I would have expected it to, be more powerful. Secret sauce. Share to group. Game changes. Game changes. Ready?
Yep. Are we live?
3, 2, yes. Hello, everybody.
Hi. Good
Looking up
morning. Oh no, good evening somewhere else as well.
Looking up at my double chin from down here today, my camera's messing up. So today was a really great session in Secret Sauce. We covered probably one of the most important topics that we ever do because it's relevant in everyday life for every single human being on the planet is boundaries.
Mm.
What were some of the big takeouts today, do you think?
Oh, I think, this has been such an integral part of my life, learning about boundaries, and I love now being able to unpack it and support others through learning about boundaries. But I think the biggest takeout is realizing that we have boundaries that we need to set for others, but also learning when we may overstep the mark with other people's boundaries.
Yeah, kind of full circle on a little bit of that for some along the way, because it's all very good and well to start to understand. But well, the good thing is once you start to learn your own, it becomes apparent where others have got them. And some people are just blind to it, as we said. I gave that example of people taking pickles off my burger. That's not cool. But it's so true. If you start to be aware of where you need them and start to set them, it becomes really easy much easier to recognize where others might be setting them for yourself. But otherwise, I mean, every day we're probably doing it without realizing.
Yeah, yep. Those values and our beliefs where, if someone's crossing them or we're feeling like we're being used or stepped on, there are times where it sort of happens over time and then we realize, no, this isn't actually okay. And then we start to set a boundary with like, that's actually not acceptable. That's not okay. And yeah, then other times it happens unbeneath us and we don't even realize that it's happening, or they can be blurred.
So actually, there's a really great point that you raised during the session. For anyone who's watching this, if you ever feel a level of resentment towards somebody, and I really want you to pay attention to this, if you feel resentment towards somebody, that is a clear indication, and Kristie beautifully articulated this on our session today, that is a clear indication that you need to set boundaries. And it's on you to set those boundaries to prevent you feeling that resentment in the first place. Because as we just discussed, sometimes people don't know that they're crossing boundaries unless we tell them.
Yeah.
So if you have somebody in your life that you're starting to feel that little pent up little bit of like that resentment for them, that is clear. That is a clear indication to you that you need to set boundaries that you probably haven't set yet.
Yeah.
Just food for thought. I want to share that with everybody who's watching this live or the replay.
Yeah, yeah. It was really fascinating, wasn't it? Because it's something that we talk about regularly, but when we really start to unpack it, it's just like, okay, where is there some room for me to improve, or where is there room for me to articulate and communicate clear, consistent boundaries?
Yeah, without question. Now, the other really important thing I think is worth kind of just like recapping on, because it was the very first thing that we kind of heard from everybody about, like why are they important and where do they come from? And it's just that if we don't know what our values are, and then we don't have associated boundaries to say what we're willing to accept or not, we are then open. Everybody is then open to the interpretations that others give to us. So that is to say that if I don't set boundaries, however you treat me is how then my reality becomes, instead of me setting boundaries so that this is how you will treat me. So if we're not setting boundaries, we are basically open to anyone else's interpretation of what our reality should be, and that is not healthy, and that's probably why some people get so stressed. People who don't like conflict, there's a difference here. People who don't like conflict can often say, I don't like conflict, so therefore I don't set boundaries. Well, you don't have to go into conflict to set a boundary either. But there's a misconception that goes with that sometimes where, you know, people think that by setting a boundary that it will lead to conflict. And so, yeah, I think that was a really important thing to recognize there as well, is that if we don't want other people's reality of us to then seep into our own reality, we have to be able to set boundaries and recognize what boundaries are and how important they are.
We have to be accountable. We have to own the things that we need to do in order to create the life that we actually want. And the way people treat us and respect us is often because that's something that we've allowed. And
We've allowed it.
Yeah. And that's a harsh thing sometimes. It can be a harsh thing to learn that you actually created a lot of the trouble or the hardship or the interactions that aren't the negative. We have created all of it because we've allowed it.
We've allowed it. That's
we
it.
haven't asked for it, but we've created it all the time.
Well, and the other thing as well that was really clear is sometimes it's not always easy to backtrack once you've allowed something for a while, because that becomes other people's norm. And being able to, you know, revisit something and change something that people have gotten used to is not always the easiest thing. So best time to set a boundary is at the beginning, when you recognize that one needs to exist in the first place, because it's always harder to reset one once something else has been established.
Yeah. And boundaries do not have to be aggressive.
No.
They don't have to be. A lot of the time we've got the resentment built up and the negative emotions and things that then allows us to articulate it in an aggressive manner because we're fed up, we've had enough. Yeah. But we've only had enough because we've allowed it. So when we own it, it's a lot easier to assert a boundary in a non-judgmental way, because it's like, you know what, I'm going to own that part. It's not really your fault because I've allowed it, but I'm sure as heck aren't going to put up with it anymore.
You know what? There's probably a bunch of people here who will have gone, I've tried to set boundaries and it doesn't work. It always ends up in a fight. And probably you're in a situation where you have allowed the resentment to build up. It's your boundary is now fueled by resentment. So you've done exactly what Kristie has said and just gone like, here's my boundary. You shall not pass, you know, like, and that is a hard thing for somebody to receive, especially when they may not know that they're doing something wrong.
Exactly.
So again,
that's how it ends up in fight and conflict. Yeah.
That's it. So doing it when you identify it respectfully before it's fueled by fury, do it when it needs to be done. Yeah. And having the confidence to do it when you see that there is need.
Yes. Easier said than done when it's something you have to practice, and something that we look forward to going through next week is how to actually put that in practice, how to recognize them, how to, you know, be able to do it in a way where it's going to avoid the conflict and the confusion.
But still give you the outcome that you initially set out to, which is to have a healthy relation because of boundaries you see that you need to set. Yes.
Fascinating.
Stay tuned. Yeah.
We'll definitely chat about it.
Yeah, there's some big stuff. There's some really big stuff. And like I said, this has always seeped into almost everything that we do. So it's a pretty big topic of conversation, and one that is really important for everybody. Not a soul on this earth does not need to understand the power of setting healthy boundaries so that, you know, you don't become somebody else's perceived version of you. You can remain you, as you, the best you, the you you want to be, not the one that they tell you you are. So really, really important that we get it right.
Yeah, great point, Robbie.
Rock and roll. Well, with that, stay tuned. See you next time.
Awesome. See you. Bye.